Thank you everyone for joining us this morning for this session of Webinar Wednesday. Today we will be discussing the deployment of basemaps and tilesets in GeoSync GO Plus. The GeoSync GO Plus, as we've mentioned before, is the latest application or latest addition to the GeoSync GO family of products. It is a web-based application available on iOS, Android, and Windows platforms. So again, it's all web-based. You have your own designer or map designer. You can capture new points, use field forms, and so on. So it's the latest and greatest, and it's a really nice application. So to get into the administrative tools, you actually have to sign into the GeoSync GO app. You can get the app in two ways. One, you can actually go to the Play Store or the iStore, basically your app store, and download for either install for either iOS, Android, or Windows, or you can actually use a browser and access the GeoSync GO web-hosted app at geosyncgo.com/go. We do recommend using Chrome for the best experience for your browser. After you have the app installed or you access the web app, the first screen you should see would be the username or the sign-in page, where you would enter a username and a password. To access the account management tools that we'll need to configure our tilesets and base maps, you will have to enter a password. You can't go to Discover Maps. You'll have to enter as administrative rights to utilize these admin tools. The sign-in home screen looks like this. At this point, you would not open a project, or you could, but you actually want to go to the account. That's where the admin tools are. Once you select account, you'll get to the management tools. The management tools that we'll discuss today, as I mentioned, are tilesets. Basemaps and GeoSync GO Plus are configured in the tilesets tool. So basically, your basemaps are tilesets. There are no attributes. It's mostly visual overlays of maps. Once you've selected the account option, it will take you to you will be directed to the management tools screen. From there, you want to select the tilesets option. If your device that you're accessing the admin tools from is a tablet or a phone where you have a portrait view, your screen may look something like this. If it does, you've got an extra step. First, you would have to select the menu option. Then you would select tilesets from the column at the left. It just depends if you're a landscape or portrait, the way the application adjusts the view. So either way, you would select tilesets. Once you select the tilesets option, it will take you to the tilesets main menu. From there, you'll see a list of all the tilesets that you have available to your account. Not necessarily a project, but these are tilesets that are configured or connections to tilesets that have been made for this account. These, and as we'll see as we go along, can be applied to map projects that you've created. Some of the options from here: you can create a new tileset, you can import tilesets that have been pre-configured, you can edit an existing tileset, or you can delete a tileset. There are two basic categories of our tilesets. You have tile layers and WMS layers. Tile layers are a cached tile service. It's a static image tile. Something's been a cached image has been created of GIS data and served up as a service. The WMS layer is a little different. You actually see images, but the images are dynamic. They're actually displayed dynamically from a data set. So if a WMS layer, you should expect that the data would change. For example, one of the layers we'll look at will be the weather service radar. That is a WMS where the data is continually changing, and we want to actually see that refresh. If you select a new tile set, it will take you to a new tile set dialog where you would enter information to configure the connection to that tile set. At first, you've got a general tab, general information that you'll enter, the name and the type of layer, that type of layer, the URL, that type of thing. You also have a display tab where you determine when and how the tile set will display on your map project when you add it. And we'll get into more detail on these. Just want to show the two basic tabs there for a new tile set. If you select it to decide to import a tile set, you'll see a menu, something like we have here. Actually, exactly like we have there. The import list is a list of pre-configured tile sets. Currently, all the tile sets are tile layers. We don't currently have any WMS layers in there, but we're continuing to add to this. So there's more to come on that one. From the import, you would simply select the tile set you want and add it to the list, or to your tile set list. The first tile set we'll look at a little more in depth is the tile layer. We mentioned that a tile layer is a cached tile service. So in this case, we're looking at the Kentucky base map. So the first thing I would do in creating this, or connecting to this tile tile layer, would be to give a name. Now the name is completely up to the end user. This is when you look at the tile set list in the map, this is the name that will be displayed. That's what you'll see the tile set listed as in the map. So that's totally up to you. That could be K-base, KY-base, Kentucky map, whatever the user would want to name this layer. The type is where you would select the type of layer, whether it's a tile layer or a WMS layer. Next, you have your URL template. This is where you would enter the URL for the service that you're connecting to. One of the things that you may notice, most tile layers, not always, depends on the how the layer is configured, or depends on the service, maybe a little different. But a tile layer will typically end similar to this, where you have a ZYX extension on the end. So just a little hint there, if you want, you may notice that. Subdomains, those are those are dependent on the service itself. You should not have to worry about that. But if a service uses multiple domains to serve that up, this is where those multiple domains would be listed. And then, of course, the attribution, you've got the owner or the publisher of that service. So next we'll look at the display. Sorry, a little too far ahead. The display selection of the tile layer. First couple of things we have are the zoom levels. The minimum zoom, we've got this turning on at level 1. The maximum zoom, you can have the closest, base your zoom levels, when you first see it and how deep you can go or how close you can get before it turns off. So you can turn it on and turn it off at different layers, or different levels, sorry. So now, the tile size, this is set to 256. That's pretty typical. The tile size is typically 256. There's a 520, I think it is, which is, you probably will not run into that, so you shouldn't have to worry about that one. The maximum native zoom, you shouldn't have to worry about that. The ones that you would worry about, the opacity, this one is set to where it is not opaque. It's all the way to the right. It's fully visible. As you move the slider to the left, you would begin to set opacity to that layer. The Z index is this layer's listing its position in tile set list, so which one's on top and on bottom. You can actually stack your tile levels and your tile layers in GeoSync GO Plus, so you can have a aerial image on the bottom and then add something on top, another tile layer on top of that with opacity. So you can actually stack multiple tile layers. The initially toggled off, that basically means when we first open our project, this layer will be off. So you would have to physically turn that on. Take this check mark out. It will always be on when you open, initially when you open the project. Disable caching. With this off, your cache will refresh when you zoom, and it will actually be able to refresh. If you disable caching, once the initial tiles load, they will not refresh. They just automatically they would not refresh. You'd have the cache you have, and it would stay at that. So times you may want to use that, but most of the time probably not. So next, let's look at the WMS layers. These are, again, the ones that are dynamic layers. These are, and this one I've used the example of the weather radar the weather service radar. Again, the name you can call it WSR if you wanted. That's user selectable. Again, it is a WMS layer, and the reason I use the weather service as an example for the WMS is this is a tile set, or a tile set that is continually being updated. It's a weather radar. So it is an example of WMS layer. It's dynamic. It's continually you're getting refresh of the image. It's coming from a data source. We do have the URL. They are typically look like this. You'll see WMS somewhere in this in this string. Again, subdomains, again, that is the information about multiple domains that might be necessary to serve this tile set. Attribution, this one actually has an attribute for the name. Layers. WMS layers also have the capability of having multiple layers as part of the service that's provided. So in this case, we're looking at layer 1 for this with radar service. That's the layer that we wanted to see. The format, image, JPEG. We recommend using the image and JPEG. The reason for this is that image format is capable of your it supports transparency. The WMS version basically depends on the service. So you will have to know something about your service, obviously. You'll have to know a little bit about the service you're connecting to for the version and like. Transparent, we do have transparency turned on for this layer because the weather radar service will want to see the weather information over top of another base map or layers, and we would want to be able to see through that. Some more information on the display of the WMS layers. Again, you have the minimum and maximum zooms when the layer turns on and turns off. The tile size, again, 256, that's pretty much recommended, the standard. We do have an opacity set. Since we turned on transparency, we've got this set about the middle, about a 0.5, so you can actually see through the weather information. And the index, this is actually set to the first spot. It's on top, so we would want that to be above our other base layers that are Kentucky base layer. We want to see this on top. This layer is initially toggled off, so when we start our project, it will not be turned on. We'll have to manually turn it on. For some reason, caching is disabled. That's probably not a good idea on this one. So we do want this one to cache. That is a mistake there. This layer should cache. once you've made all your settings, you do want to save these. It's the connection setting to your tile sets. You'll want to use the save button at the bottom right, along with just similar, the same as the other settings of layers, searches, any of the different areas of the administrative tools. That is your save button. You'll definitely want to use that. Okay. At this point, you've created or created connections to the data sources for your tile sets. So we want to now we have to apply those, add those to, make them available to a project. So they're not automatically added to any of your map projects. We've just created the connection. We've created the tile sets, the sources. So at this point, when you're looking back at the administrative tool, we want to go to projects. So where you create, manage, and edit your projects. So we want to add these tile sets to a project, make them available in a map project. So we would select projects, and once you do that, it'll take you to the main. You select projects, it will take you to the main projects folder. From here, you will select the project that you want to add the tile set to, and click Edit. That'll take you to that project, and in the project, you'll select the tab for tile sets. There's a drop down. You will select your tile set. In this case, we're adding the weather service radar to our project. Click the Add button, and that will add the service, add the tile set to your list of tile sets. In this case, we have the Kentucky base map, MapSync street map, and we've added the weather service radar. Once you have that, if you want to remove a tile set, simply click the X at the right, and that'll take the tile set out. Once you have the configurations, project configuration the way you want it, you again select the Save button. That saves all of your settings. At this point, we've completed our settings for our tile sets and actually included one of the new tile sets into another project. So now we want to check that. To exit the management tools, you select the menu button at the far right, the three dots. You have two options. One, you can sign out, which takes you completely out. You're logged out. In this case, what we'd like to do is select Home. That will take us to our projects, so we can select one of our projects and stay logged in, select a project, and view what we've set up. So once you select Home, it will take you to your home screen. You can select the project that you want to review or check on. It opens that project up, and you can see now we have our image, our weather service radar added to our MapSync Village project. That is the end of the webinar for today. Thank you very much.